Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 20, Text 17. And this is Sukadeva Goswami is giving Maharaj Parikshit a tour of the universe, the different areas, different islands, different oceans, different mountains and rivers, where different living entities reside, and how in each area there is an incarnation of the personality of Godhead, and the residents there worship the Lord in a particular way. So in this section, there is we're reading about Kushadweep, and this is text 17. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants, glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, not 10th canto, 5th canto, as translated with commentaries by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. So, text 17. This is the mantra by which the inhabitants of Kushadweep worship the fire god. O fire god, you are a part of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, and you carry to him all the offerings of sacrifices. Therefore, we request you to offer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead the yagnic ingredients we are offering to the demigods, for the Lord is the real enjoyer. Very often, people worship the demigods for material benefits and kind of miss the point, because any material benefits or gains or even elevation to heavenly planets is temporary. So these residents of Kushadweep, they're approaching the Supreme Personality of Godhead through a demigod. And they see the demigod as part and parcel of the Lord. They don't see him separately. So in this way, their position is a pretty good position for spiritual advancement, because they recognize the demigod as being a part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. And they recognize the Lord as the supreme enjoyer. So no one can really go to the Lord directly. To approach the Lord always has to be through a representative, a spiritual master or a pure devotee, or in this case, through the demigod. So this is accepted by the Lord, and is not in conflict with devotional service. It's not in conflict with it. Prabhupada's commentary: the demigods are servants who assist the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one worships the demigods, as servant of the Supreme, carry the sacrificial offerings to the Lord, like tax collectors collecting revenue from the citizens and bringing it to the government's treasury. The demigods cannot accept the sacrificial offerings. They simply carry the offerings to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya Prasada Bhagavad Prasada. Since the Guru is a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he carries to the Lord whatever is offered to them, what is offered to him. Similarly, all the demigods, as faithful servants of the Supreme Lord, hand over to the Supreme Lord what is offered to them in sacrificial performances. There's no fault in worshiping the demigods with this understanding, but to think that the demigods are independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or equal to him is called Rita Jnana, loss of intelligence. One who thinks that the demigods themselves are the actual benefactors is mistaken. So this is the way to approach the Lord, is through his representative. But when he puts the representative in place of God, or the representative as independent of there is no God, that the demigod is the highest being, then there's a problem with their consciousness is not spiritually healthy. It's contaminated, material contamination, and blinded material nature has a tendency to blind the intelligence. And so everything that a person endeavors for becomes related to sense gratification, which means identification with a temporary material body and mind, which means another birth in the cycle. It means being limited to a particular type of material engagement. And this can go on perpetually until it enters into the devotional atmosphere. So by serving the demigod like this is devotion. If you see the demigod as a representative of the Lord, part and parcel of the Lord, and then you can gain entry into the devotional atmosphere. But this very often is not the case, approaching demigods just for some material benediction, and then there's no connection with the devotional atmosphere. It still remains material, which means cycle of birth and death, repeatedly, over and over. Text 18. Outside the ocean of clarified butter, so the island of Kushadweep, where the inhabitants approach the Lord through the fire god Agni, is surrounded by an ocean of clarified butter, which is interesting because when sacrifices are performed into the fire, the clarified butter is offered, the ghee. So this place where they're worshiping the fire god as the representative of the Lord is surrounded by an ocean of ghee, because they're going to need that ghee for the sacrificial fires. Interesting. Now, outside the ocean of clarified butter is another island known as Kramshadweep, which has a depth of 1,600,000 yojanas, which equals 12,800,000 miles, twice the width of the ocean of clarified butter. As Kushadweep is surrounded by an ocean of clarified butter, Kramshadweep is surrounded by an ocean of milk, as broad as the island itself. On Kramshadweep, there's a great mountain known as Krancha, from which the island takes its name. It'd be interesting to see how the residents of Kramshadweep approach the Lord. They're surrounded by an ocean of milk. So there's no purport. We'll go to the next verse, text 19. Although the vegetables living on the slopes of Mount Krancha were attacked and devastated by the weapons of Kartikeya, the mountain has become fearless because it's always bathed on all sides by the ocean of milk and protected by Varunadev. So something must have happened there. Kartikeya believe he's the son of Lord Shiva. He looks like at one point he attacked and devastated the mountain. But the verse is saying, the mountain is fearless. It's bathed on all sides by an ocean of milk. Now, I don't know if this relates or not, but milk very often is referred to as liquid religiosity. So I don't know how that enters in here or not, but maybe has something to do with religiosity. Let's see what the next verse. There's no purport. Let's see the next verse, text 20. The ruler of this island was another son of Maharaj Priyavrata. His name was Kritapristha. He was a very learned scholar. He also divided his own island among his 7 sons. After dividing the island into 7 parts, named according to the names of his sons, Kritapristha Maharaj completely retired from family life, took shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, the soul of all souls, who has all auspicious qualities. He attained perfection. No purport there. Text 21. The sons of Maharaj Kritapristha were named Amma, Madhuruha, Meghapristha, Sudama, Brajista, Lauhitarna, and Vanashpati. In their island, there are 7 mountains, which indicate the boundaries of the 7 tracts of land, and there are also 7 rivers. The mountains are named Sukla, Vardhamana, Bhojana, Upardina, Nanda, Nandana, and Sarvatopadra. The rivers are named Abhaya, Amritoga, Aryaka, Tirthavati, Rupavati, Pavitravati, and Sukla. So we're getting the geography. And the mountains separate the 7 divisions where the 7 sons of Maharaj Kritapristha are ruling and managing. And Maharaj Kritapristha himself was one of the sons of, who is the son? We just read that. He is the son of Maharaj Priyavrata, one of the sons. Okay, so there's no purport there. We're on to text 22. The inhabitants of Kranchadweep are divided into 4 castes, called Purushas, Vrishabhas, Dravanas, and Devakas. So in Bharatavarsha we have 4 castes, which are, I'm not sure when he says castes here, if it's probably the spiritual castes, like, no, it's the castes of the Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and that's on where we are in Bharatavarsha. And here in Kranchadweep, they have the Purushas, the Vrishabhas, the Dravanas, and the Devakas. That's their 4 castes. Using the waters of the sanctified rivers, they worship Supreme Personality of Godhead by offering a palmful of water at the lotus feet of Varuna, the demigod who has a form of water. So they're approaching the Lord through the demigod Varuna, water. Water is very purifying, especially the water from the sacred rivers, and just water in general for bathing and cleaning and purifying the body also. It's nothing like very healthy just drinking pure water. Clean the inside, outside. Very purifying. So they're worshiping the Lord through evidently acts of purification by offering palmful of water at the lotus feet of Varuna from the sacred rivers. One sentence here by Prabhupada. Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Apomaya Asmaya, with joined palms, the inhabitants of various sections of Kranchadweep offer sanctified waters of the rivers to a deity made of stone or iron. So they're worshiping the deity most likely here the deity of Varuna, made of stone or iron. Again, we can expect that they are not approaching Varuna independently of the Lord. They have the proper perspective, and we'll hear what their mantra is. That's the next verse, the mantra of the residents of Kantradweep. The inhabitants of Kantradweep worship with this mantra: O waters of the rivers, you have obtained energy from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, you purify the three planetary systems known as Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, and Svarloka. By your constitutional nature, you take away sins, and that is why we are touching you. Kindly continue to purify us. So they're not asking for anything material. They're not asking for sense gratification. They are desiring purification. Purification from what? Attachment to sense gratification. So they're properly situated in their approach to the demigod, saying that the sacred rivers have obtained energy from the Lord. And so they're offering this energized water from the sacred rivers to Varuna to have their sins and attachments and anything that might be holding them back from advancing spiritually in devotion to the Lord. And there is a short purport here by Prabhupada. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhumira po nalo vayu kamano buddharevacha ahankara itiyam me bina prakritirastada. Earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego. Altogether, these 8 comprise my separated material energies. The energy of the Lord acts through the creation just as heat and light, the energies of the sun, act within the universe and make everything work. The specific rivers mentioned in the Shastras are also energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and people who regularly bathe in them are purified. It can actually be seen that many people are cured of diseases simply by bathing in the Ganges. Similarly, the inhabitants of Kantradweep purify themselves by bathing in the rivers there. So, the energy of the Lord acts through the creation. The separated energies of the Lord are his energies. They're separated in the sense that they are managed outside of his direct management. He's not directly involved with the material energies, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, false ego. They're managed by the demigods. They are his administrators. And the Lord himself has really nothing to do with the material energy. The Lord is a supreme enjoyer, and he's not attracted by earth, water, fire, his separated energies. They're there as a facility for living entities who are not inclined toward devotion to the Lord, that have become as individual living beings, part and parcel of the Lord, spiritual beings. The conditioned souls can become bewildered by wanting to be independent, not wanting to engage in devotional life on the spiritual platform, they can become desirous of exercising independence, which can never really be, because no one or no thing is independent of the Lord. The Lord, it's all his energies. But it is possible for that desire to be there in the infinitesimally small little living beings, the jivas, like me, because have the same spiritual quality as the Lord, and the Lord is the supreme independent. He does what he wants to do. So sometimes the little expansion of the Lord, the little minute jiva soul, wants to exercise that. So there has to be some facility for that. And then there's always all opportunity to rectify that mentality and get properly situated once again, so that you don't have to go through the cycle of birth and death repeatedly over and over again. You can be reinstated on the spiritual platform where there's no birth, death, no old age, no disease, and the body is a completely spiritual body, full of bliss, full of knowledge, eternal. And there's form. There's form there. Form is actually a body, a form. So these rivers are energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But these particular rivers that are being discussed here, the specific rivers mentioned in the Shastras, like the Ganges, they are surcharged with the Lord's personal energy, with his devotional energy. They're not material. They're more than just material elements. They're surcharged with the Lord's personal spiritual energy. Just like his holy name, it's not a material sound. Although we say Krishna, we have a tongue, and the sound travels through the ether, and it can measure its sound waves, and it falls on the ear, and the ear is a material receptacle. But the Lord explains, he's invested all his spiritual potencies in his name alone. So similarly, the rivers, these specific spiritual rivers, like the Ganges, which emanates from the causal ocean, and when it enters into the material universe, enters from the foot over the foot of the Lord. It's completely surcharged with his spiritual energies. So people, they get many benefits from the bathing in these rivers. Diseases, they can become cured of certain diseases. So the inhabitants of Kranchadweep, they're purifying themselves by bathing in rivers like this. There is no purport there. On text 44. And so beyond the ocean of milk is another island, Sakadweep, which has a width of 3,200,000 yojanas, which equals 25,600,000 miles. That's the width of the island. As Kranchadweep is surrounded by its own ocean of milk, Sakadweep is surrounded by an ocean of churned yogurt, as broad as the island itself. In Sakadweep, there's a big saka tree, from which the island takes its name. The tree is very fragrant. Indeed, it lends its scent to the entire island. Okay, I'm getting the geography of the universe here. Text 25, there's no purport. The master of this island, also one of the sons of Priyavrata, was known as Medatiti. He also divided his island into 7 sections, named according to the names of his own sons, who he made the kings of the island. The names of those sons are Parojava, Manojava, Pavamana, Dumranika, Chitrarepa, Baharupa, and Vishvadar. After dividing the island, and situating his sons as its rulers, made Aditi personally retired, and to fix his mind completely upon the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he entered a forest suitable for meditation. Next verse, text 26. For these lands also there are 7 boundary mountains and 7 rivers. The mountains are Ishana, Arushringa, Balabhadra, Sadakeshara, Sahasrashrota, Devapala, Mahanasa. And the rivers are Anaga, Ayurda, Ubhayasprati, Aparajita, Panchapadi, Sahasrashruti, and Nidraditi. Beyond text 27. The inhabitants of those islands are also divided into 4 castes: Ritavrata, Satyavrata, Dhanavrata, and Anuvrata, which exactly resemble Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra. They practice pranayama, mystic yoga, and in trance they worship the Supreme Lord in the form of Vayu, form of the wind. Interesting. See what their mantra will be as they approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the demigod Vayu. Interesting to see. Now, they practice pranayama. So pranayama is the breathing, which makes sense. If they're worshiping the Lord through the demigod of the wind or the air, then they're going to be offering their breath. They're going to be doing breathing and meditation. It's interesting. So let's see what their mantra is. Text 28. The inhabitants of Sakadweep worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Vayu in the following words. O Supreme Person, situated as the Super Soul within the body, you direct the various actions of the different airs, such as prana, and thus you maintain all living entities. O Lord, O Super Soul of everyone, O Controller of the cosmic manifestation, under whom everything exists, may you protect us from all dangers. It's really beautiful. Really beautiful. What's being explained here. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Prabhupada's commentary. Through the mystic yoga practice called pranayama, the yogi controls the airs within the body to maintain the body in a healthy condition. In this way, the yogi comes to the point of trance and tries to see the super soul within the core of his heart. Pranayama is the means to attain samadhi, trance, in order to fully absorb oneself in seeing the Supreme Lord as Antaryami, the super soul within the core of the heart. We're chanting Hare Krishna. We're offering our breath, our life air, to the holy name of the Lord. So that's interesting. When we chant or glorify the Lord, that life air is being offered to the Lord in his form as the holy name, in his form as his glorification. So what they're doing is they're practicing yoga, trying to approach the Paramatma, or the Lord within the heart. So Lord Chaitanya has taken us much further than that. We're not simply stopping at Paramatma, but going all the way to Bhakti Yoga, offering our life air directly to the holy name of the Lord himself in his form of his holy name, Krishna. And text 29. Actually, I think we'll stop there for today, just a short little reading. I'm going to give us some food for thought during the day as we stumble around here on Bharta Varsa, trying to perform the sacrifice that's given to us, which is the holy name of the Lord, Sankirtan Yagna.